Namo Narayanaya, revered Prabrajika Ishtaprana Mataji, and dear sisters and brothers. A very happy Women's Day to all our attendees. This morning, it gives me great joy to extend a warm and cordial welcome to each and every one of you to this morning's Women's Day webinar. We are especially blessed to be in the holy company of revered Mataji this morning. A few housekeeping rules before we commence the webinar. Today's webinar is scheduled until 11:15 and is being recorded. All dialed-in participants will be muted and their videos switched off for the duration of the event. The chat box will be open during the session, and you are most welcome to post your questions and your comments via this functionality during the webinar. After each speaker, we will take a question or two. So do type your questions into the chat box. To commence this morning's webinar, a brief introduction to our first speaker, Ms. Indrani Bastio. Ms. Bastio is a devotee of the Master since her childhood. She attended satsangs at the Tete branch for many years. She has participated in many of the activities of the center, particularly the Hinduism for Children's classes. Ms. Bastio is currently a legal manager at a financial institution. Her topic this morning is Blessings of Sri Sarada Devi. I now hand you over to our first speaker, Ms. Indrani Bastio.
Om Aim Sarvadeva Devi Swarupinye Sri Sarada Devi Namaha. Revered Mataji, respected elders, sisters and brothers, and loving children. Om Namo Narayanaya. My talk this morning is on the blessings of Sri Sarada Devi. It is common practice with most of us to have daily routines, plans, and goals in order to enjoy a well-balanced life. However, the experiences over the past year and a half have shown us that sometimes we are prepared for life's challenges, and at other times we are completely blindsided. During difficult moments, we become overwhelmed and tend to feel lost and find ourselves in dire need of a source of comfort and solace. So where do we draw strength from and regain control of our lives? It is from our self-effort and through the grace and blessings of God. Our scriptures say that God is love, and love conquers all fears. The Divine Mother of the universe is the epitome of love. She is all compassionate and ever willing to help us through life's journey. We just need to have complete faith and call upon her with utmost sincerity. We are all familiar with the depths of our earthly mother's love. She can literally go into a lion's den if she needs to rescue her child from there. If such is the love and strength of an earthly mother, can we even begin to imagine the infinite power of the Divine Mother of the universe? How much more will she do for us? From time to time, the Divine Mother manifests in various forms on earth for the sake of her devotees, and this enables us to experience her love and feel her blessings directly. Sri Sarada Devi, the consort of Sri Ramakrishna, is the universal Divine Mother who incarnated on earth for the moral progress and spiritual enlightenment of all. She is known to millions of devotees as the Holy Mother. Her life of utter simplicity, austerity, and motherly love to one and all was unparalleled. With her overflowing affection, the Holy Mother was an unfailing solace to all who sought refuge at her feet. People who approached her with all types of difficulties would be relieved of the extreme tension and pain in their hearts as a result of her sweet words of love and wisdom and her immortal blessings. Once, Girish Chandra Ghosh, a household devotee and a famous playwright, asked Mother, "What kind of a mother are you?" Sri Sarada Devi replied without a moment's hesitation, "I am your own real mother. A mother, not because of being your guru's wife, not because of any assumed relationship, not by way of mere empty talk, but truly your mother." This reply was meant not only for Girish, but was addressed to all her children. Therefore, we can take comfort in the fact that Mother's blessings and protection are available to all of us and at all times. Her life and teachings are in themselves a blessing to us. We see that despite the various hardships she encountered during her mortal lifetime, Mother juggled all her duties and responsibilities in a most fascinating manner. By observing how she went through her daily activities in a meticulous, diligent, and focused manner, whilst maintaining calm, poise, and grace at the same time, we find an incredible example of how we should strive to navigate through our own lives. When faced with difficulties, our natural inclination is often to react with frustration, anxiety, fear, and the like. However, we learn from Mother's life that we must not allow despondency to drain our energies and get the better of us. We need to keep our minds focused on God and remember that we are all children of God. Holy Mother advises us to repeat the name of God in the innermost core of our hearts with all sincerity, because she says that one who makes a habit of prayer will easily overcome all difficulties and remain calm and unruffled in the midst of trials of life. Therefore, we should recite hymns and prayers regularly, as this will bring us lasting peace and happiness. Whilst avoiding bad company, even in the form of information overload, is helpful for preventing unrest in the mind, keeping holy company, like engaging in scripture reading, is even better, as this helps to remove our mental impurities and keep us calm. Holy Mother said that the happiness of the world is transitory. The less you become attached to the world, the more you enjoy peace of mind. One of the ways to detach from the world is by taking the focus off ourselves and instead performing simple acts of kindness for someone else. Doing something nice for others is one of the most effective ways to feel better and can lift up our spirits regardless of the challenges we are facing. Mother said, "You see, my child, it is not a fact that you will never face dangers. Difficulties always come, but they do not last forever. You will see that they pass away like water under a bridge. During difficult times, we must keep ourselves meaningfully occupied. This will not only give our brains a break from worrying, but will also allow us to experience the joy that comes with brightening someone else's day. When we show compassion towards those who are troubled, it expands our own hearts and purifies our minds, thus giving us inner joy. We can practice compassion by means of selfless service or even praying for those in need. The outpouring of compassion and blessings from the heart of Sri Sarada Devi is spread far and wide, be it for the sufferings of the people at the outbreak of the First World War, or the sorrows of those affected during floods, drought, and other natural calamities. She is ever feeling their sorrow and helping them through these challenges. The flow of Holy Mother's love breaks down all walls of separation. She makes no distinction of caste, creed, race, or religion. To her, Swami Sharadananda and Amjad were alike, like two suns. She saw no difference in Gopal's mother and the mentally ill aunt. In mother's eyes, the world-renowned Swami Vivekananda and the drunkard Padma Binod were both equally her children. The great Swami Vivekananda only went to the West after having received mother's blessings. Swamiji later said to a brother monk, "To me, mother's grace is 100,000 times more valuable than father's. Mother's grace, mother's blessings are all paramount to me. Brother, before proceeding to America, I wrote to mother to bless me. Her blessings came, and at one bound I cleared the ocean. We too should seek the blessings of mother in all our efforts, in good times and through our challenges. With mother's blessings, all of our efforts will certainly bear fruit." The Holy Mother's words of wisdom and practical advice go straight into the heart of the listeners with a rare and irresistible power. But more than just words, it is the unseen aura of her love and affection for all that draws us to her. As devotees of the Holy Mother, we have a responsibility to keep alive this treasure house of wisdom and knowledge by putting into practice her simple yet priceless teachings. Qualities of love, kindness, compassion, unity, and harmony are the need of the hour in our beloved country, South Africa, and across the world. With the blessings of Sri Sarada Devi, let us work together to build and rebuild stronger families, communities, and countries. Let us remember that even today, Mother lives in a subtle form in her portrait, and her benign gaze is always protecting us. Looking at Mother's picture with devotion can soothe our nerves in a moment and fill our hearts with peace and bliss. I conclude this morning's talk with these powerful words of assurance from Sri Sarada Devi, which I pray fills us all with immense strength and provide us with comfort and hope. Mother said, "Free yourself from all anxiety by entrusting your future to me. And remember this, I am the mother of the wicked as I am the mother of the virtuous. Never fear. Whenever you are in distress, just say to yourself, I have a mother." May the blessings of Sri Sarada Devi always be upon us. Hari Om Tat Sat.
Om Namo Narayana. Thank you so much, Indrani Ben, for your very beautiful discourse today. I have been monitoring the chat box, so I kindly ask that if you have any questions, to please post it in the chat box. Indrani Ben, while we're waiting for a question, if I may pose a question to you, what would you say if you had to give somebody one message? What would be that one message or one teaching that you would like all the young men and women here today on our webinar to take away? What would you say is one question, one teaching that they can take away?
Om Prakashni, Mother's life is full of wonderful teachings. And I think given the current situation in the country, peace of mind is so important. And Mother's famous teaching of if you want peace of mind, do not find fault with others, rather see your own faults. This is not necessarily things that we do wrong, but we should look inside ourselves and see how we can improve ourselves, because if each person improves themselves, that will contribute eventually to a better family, better society, better community. So I think, and improving ourselves and looking at our faults doesn't necessarily mean something bad, but things, qualities such as ego, we can look at reducing those negative qualities and improving ourselves, living a simplistic life rather than an extravagant and unwanted, unnatural, unrealistic life. Thank you.
Ben. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for your takeaway. Our second speaker this morning is Ms. Nariksha Singh. Ms. Singh is also a devotee of the Master since her childhood. She attends satsangs at the Sri Sarada Devi Ashram and is an occupational therapist specializing in hand rehabilitation and works extensively in physical rehabilitation. Ms. Singh has offered her loving services to the humanitarian activities of the ashram for many years. Ms. Singh's topic this morning is managing common bodily pain at home. I now hand you over to Nariksha.
Om Namo Narayanaya, respected Prabhajika Ishtaprana Mataji, panelists, dear sisters and brothers. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you today on managing pain, a self-therapy. As Hindus, we are aware that we are the Atman dwelling within a body. The body accordingly has 5 sheets, roughly divided into the mind, body, and the spirit. As the body is required for all our daily functioning, our secular and spiritual work, we have to keep it fit so that we can be active and continue with our work performance. However, pain becomes very limiting and often stops us from moving or performing our daily tasks and roles. Also, with our busy lifestyle, especially as being mothers, homemakers, and even career women, we usually do not pay heed to the pain. Also, within these times of the pandemic, we are often scared to go and seek medical advice, and we often then live with the pain. However, I think it's important to note that you can't leave pain unattended to, because this then becomes chronic pain, and it leads to ongoing symptomatology because there's ongoing physiological changes in the body. Today, I will discuss and demonstrate the management of 3 main areas of pain in the body. I will give you direction and tips on how to manage the pain by yourself. However, should this basic management not assist you completely, you must seek medical advice from your occupational therapist, physiotherapist, and the doctor, especially if medication is needed for your pain. So let us start with the neck. Tension and spasms of muscles occur in the neck because of an imbalance of the trapezius muscle compared to the smaller shoulder blade muscles. This occurs due to strain, injury, poor postures because we often work in a bent position, and even because of emotional stress. So I'm going to show you how to manage pain in the neck. We're looking at 3 main areas, which is heating the area, doing a massage in the area, and the last one is stretch exercises. So although you have pain, you have to move. So let me show you. This is a heat pack. So often this can be put into the microwave for about 2 minutes. Then it's warm enough. You can offer compression onto the areas where you have pain. And I always think that this is a quick and easy thing to do, because even if you're busy with your cooking, you can easily put it on your neck, or if you're driving to work, heat it up and put it on your neck and continue with what you need to do. So this becomes self-therapy for you. I'm going to be focusing on massaging the neck. The main thing is to understand that you have to work through 4 main areas. So you have to work onto the neck, on top of the shoulder, you have to work on the arm, and also the shoulder blade. So I'm going to go through these areas of massaging in a little bit more detail so that you can take away how to do this yourself. I'll be turning in this video to show you what to access. So the first thing you start with is rubbing onto your neck. This is the side of the neck. As you're doing this, you're using big and long strokes. As we are massaging, you have to go into the back of the neck towards the spine. From this point, you can also use your fingertips and try to go a little bit more deeper into the areas. Thereafter, you stroke on top of the shoulder blade. Importantly, when you're doing this, we are going up and down continuously. We're not favoring one movement in this. Once you've rubbed here for almost 1 or 2 minutes, then proceed to the arm. when rubbing the arm, you have to rub upward because this activates and helps reduce the tension in this muscle here, which is the deltoid. The main area is the shoulder blade, and it's often a difficult area to reach. So what you have to do is use your left or unopposing arm and try to rub across the shoulder blade area in a circular fashion. If you have flexibility in your arm, you can use your left hand at the bottom and the right hand at the top. You also have to work on the side close to the arm in order to release the tension there. Ideally, you should be massaging for almost 5 minutes at a time in the entire shoulder blade. Then you can repeat with the heat and repeat the massage. Often it is easier to lean onto a table and work on massaging so that you're resting your arm and accessing your neck and shoulder blade easier. From here, we're going to be looking at the stretch exercises that you should do for your neck. When you're doing this exercise, make sure you sit up straight. Activate your shoulder blades so that you're not sitting stooped. Also activate your tummy muscle to activate the core muscles. From here, gently move your head down with the chin trying to touch the chest. Thereafter, slowly move up, looking at the window or the ceiling in front of you and up to your light at the top. Don't overstretch your neck. The second movement is looking to your left side and then to the other side. These movements have to be slow and conscientious so you don't hurt. Also, you should be assisting the movement with your other hand if you feel you can't go far enough. The next movement is to make your ear touch your shoulder, and you can use your hand to gently give you an extra stretch without raising the shoulder blade. Then you do the other side, again, slowly and gentle stretch, don't lift your shoulder blade. The next one is having to look with, in a diagonal fashion, which is looking towards your armpit so that your chin is going into your armpit. And then in the other direction, again, towards the armpit, keeping the shoulder blades back and not moving. The main idea with this exercise is that it has to be slow. I did it fairly rapidly because I had to show you all of the exercise in this time constraint, but each movement should be 20 seconds long. So that's how long you should be going over to the other area because we are just stretching. We're trying to alleviate pain, not fast. Also, again, do this after you've heated the area to limit pain in the area. We don't want to exercise to worsen things. We're going to move on to the wrist. Pain at the wrist area is an indicator of either problems at the wrist itself, and there are actually 10 bones in this area which constitute the wrist, or the thumb itself. This can be muscles, so we call this tenosynovitis of the thumb, or other tendons of the wrist. You can be having nerve problems, which is the common one is carpal tunnel because of the median nerve interruption, or it can be bone along the actual thumb area or along the wrist areas. And as I said, there's 10 bones in this area. So ultimately, you have to work out which pain it is according to medical assistance. The pain that is ongoing in this area eventually does require you to have a doctor consult because you have to have x-rays and an ultrasound. Also, you may have to have medication, which is both painkillers and anti-inflammatories. And you may require the use of splints and braces and the exercises. Once again, in spite of pain, you still have to move in a safe way. The treatment for this hand area is again using heat. So you heat up the heat pack, but you place it around the hand like this. So just sandwich it in the bag to make it more composite around the area of the wrist so the pain feels a lot easier. Once it's heated for about 2 areas, 2-3 minutes onto the skin, then you're going to massage. So you can use any little ointment, put it onto the area. So what I'm showing you now is when you have a tendon strain. Tendon strain is often in a long area. It runs along where the tendon sits. So you can actually see where my one pulls up. When you have bony pain, it's normally at the spot right? So that's around the joints that you would be rubbing to elevate the pain. And this is quite consistent because it's always the same joint in the same spot. And then the last one is the nerve. So then you'll be rubbing along the muscles that are innervated by the nerve. So this is your median nerve, which supplies these 3 fingers. So when you're massaging the hand, the big tip is not to rub like this, how we wash our hand. You actually have to do it in strips because of the nerve distribution, and you work just deep into the muscle area as well to relieve the pain. Once you've done that, you can use a splint. So you get commercial splints that the occupational therapist makes, and these are often available and fabricated by the therapist. If not, the quick remedy is just using a roller bandage. I'm just using a narrow one, but you can fold a broad one in half. So you're going to be starting by wrapping around your thumb like this. This is a starting point, and I'm holding out my fingers. From here, we're going to crisscross across the wrist to create a figure of 8 impression. Again, with the pain of the wrist, it can be coming from the thumb. So I generally recommend that you immobilize the wrist and the thumb to completely reduce your pain. So we're just rotating around the thumb and wrist. So you can go repeatedly in order to thicken the area and thus cause greater immobilization. So you're actually limiting how far you can move the thumb and finger. So you can then sleep with this or use this when you're still active in your daily life. From here, the last thing again is movement. So this one exercise is called the tenodesis exercise, which you can use for all pain. Basically, it entails that when your wrist drops, your fingers open. And when your wrist goes back, your fingers want to flex. So you can even try that as we speaking now. So it's a natural movement where when the wrist drops, you want to open the fingers and thumb. And when you go into extension of the wrist, the fingers want to flex. So we use this pattern with your stretching. And you can see I just aid and assist my fingers to make it a tighter bend or to stretch a little bit further out in those areas. The last component we're going to look at is the knee. So the knee, unlike the wrist and the hand, is for stabilization and weight bearing. It's not for movement and flexibility. So this often becomes a joint of wear and tear because of our bad postures in standing, in walking, and in working, and even when we exercise. So the instability of the joint is of the greatest concern because usually this causes pain if you're going downhill and if you're going downstairs. And some people even find a clicking of the joint or they feel like it's moving out of place. So this one unfortunately needs a very good knee guard. A knee guard is not only fabric for warmth and for pain, but it also has metal for stabilizing the joint. This knee guard has to be worn with exercises, and usually if it's bad, on a continuous basis. Unfortunately, this definitely needs an orthopedic consult, and the doctor, they will have to intervene by doing assessments to see how the knee is behaving. If you have general pain from imbalance, posture, and wear and tear, the main thing is to look on supporting this joint, and you have to take heed of your postures. You have to be aware, how am I standing in my daily activities? Often we lean onto one side when we stand onto one leg. The whole idea is to stand up straight like a soldier because you're activating all your posture muscles and we're distributing the weight between 2 legs. So once again, heat is important because heat is anti-inflammatory, it causes blood circulation, it's getting oxygen to the area. So that works very nicely. And then you have to work on massaging the area, once again, for the same reasons, your anti-inflammatory response, and it creates elasticity of the muscles to help it relax and not be tense. And then the last aspect also is to wear a brace. You get a soft one, semi-rigid, and then you get a hard one. But I'm just going to show you today, with, again, how to use the bandage at home. So I'm just going to stand up and put my knee onto the chair so that you can see as I show you the areas to rub and how to bandage this. So I'm going to put my knee up here so you can see. The whole idea is with the knee is that you have to work around the area. So this is your kneecap. When you're massaging, you have to work around the kneecap. And this is not only for people that have swelling of the knee, it's for all pain conditions, because again, we're working on the cartilage, the ligaments, and all the supporting tendons in the area. So we work in a circular fashion around this area quite intensely. You can also work circular at this part, which is really the bony part of the kneecap. From here, we're going to work on top of the knee. This is going into your quadriceps muscle, which attach onto the bones here, the femur bone, to help the knee joint move. And then at the bottom, importantly, is to work underneath the knee. This is called the popliteal fossa. Here, you're helping to get rid of swelling in the area. So that's how you would do the massaging. In terms of bandaging, this you also work in a figure of 8. So you're going to go around the joint at the top. Once you've got your starting point, you're going to crisscross towards the bottom. Again, you're going towards the figure of 8 pattern, because this offers stability rather if you just wrap all the way around. So you just crisscross around the knee like that. So again, what this pattern of wrapping is doing is that it's supporting at the kneecap and giving those ligaments enough control so that it's easier for you to walk and do activity with that. So this brings us to the conclusion of my talk. The main takeaway message is to remember that any pain that is longer than 20 minutes is already chronic pain. And this impacts on our physiological processes in our body and the brain's response to it. And this is what it calls behavior. So the main thing is to remember that you have to respect pain. Don't push past the pain. And often women are not forgiving on themselves, and you feel that you must do for others and do for your house and do for your career. But you have to be able to look after yourself first before you can look after other people. So you must take care of your own body, because ultimately you can do more in your daily life. You have to be a little bit selfish so that you can look after other people. Thank you very much, and Om Namo Narayanaya.
Om Namo Narayanaya. Thank you, Nariksha. That was so practical and I think very beneficial for most of us and most of your sisters who are all aging. I've just got one question for you. What would you say is the benefits of exercise and a good diet in general wellness?
Thank you. Yes, I think the main thing is that we underestimate how much we do in a day and how much we put our body through it. We forget that, again, in order to perform, we have to look after our body, which is the temple we house in the Atman. So ultimately, you're not being selfish by looking after it. You have to eat well, drink enough fluids, rest, and exercise. In my working profession, which is now 20 years, there's no special equipment that I use. I only use heat and exercises, because the body has to move. So whether I'm working with disabled patients, people with pain and injury, the only thing is that you have to move, but obviously in safe ways. So yes, you have to take care of your body, because that will make you do much, much more at all levels.
Thank you, Nariksha. We have a question from Nabila, our sister from Bloemfontein. She asks, please advise the role or the impact of handbags on our shoulders and necks. And as you know, many of us carry many bags. So what advice would you give, Nabila?
Thank you, Nabila. It's an excellent question. Again, our body is designed to work as balance, like how we're speaking about food and rest and water. We also have to balance what happens in our body. We have a left and right side. We have a front and back side. We have short muscles in the hand, and we have long muscles. So everything is about balance. And this is where our postures come into play, because we have to make sure that we're balancing what's happening in the system. So if we're using a heavy handbag onto your right side, you will straight away find that even just by putting this bag onto my shoulder, it causes depression. So what happens is you're now shifting your entire body into one side, which is an asymmetry. So if you're carrying heavy things, you have to look at, can you leave some things at work? If you can't, you have to look at distributing the force, maybe carry 2 bags. So use 2 material shopping bags and put things that way, and really see what you have to take up and down with you. Maybe you have to use a trolley bag. So that helps because you're not lifting, but also be careful you're not putting your arm backward with that force and creating shoulder pain. The bag must actually be in the side of you. Yes, so this points to ergonomics, how we use our body in our daily environment, whether it's carrying a handbag, whether it's working, whether it's sitting at a table. Thanks, Amira.
Thank you, Niriksha. We have another question from Sareka. She asks, can a trigger finger be healed without going into theater?
Yes, I'm always cheeky because of my profession. With occupational therapy, we have all these different options which you can do. So trigger finger can respond to conservative management, which is the heat, the massaging, and the splint use. Basically, what we're trying to do with the trigger finger is that we're trying to break down the thickening of one of the pulleys of the muscle. So if you can reduce inflammation substantially, you can then definitely avoid surgery. But having said that, Sareka, some patients' fingers are picked up quite late. It can be 1 year down the line. So then the best approach then is to have surgery, but they still have to have the therapy afterwards to prevent this inflammation process of the ligaments in the area.
Thank you so much, Niriksha.
Pleasure.
Our third speaker this morning is Ms. Nirisha Singh, a devotee of Master as well. Ms. Singh, Ms. Maharaj is an international executive coach, author, yoga teacher, and chartered accountant. She also holds an MBA, and she's the author of the book, Self-Love, The Authentic Path to Conscious Leadership, based on her MBA research. Ms. Maharaj is a Vedantic scholar and is currently completing a PhD at UCT on a Vedantic perspective towards spiritual intelligence in leadership. Her topic this morning is cultivating a mind of love and courage. I now hand you over to Ms. Maharaj.
Om Akandamandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Revered Pravarajika Ishtaprana Mataji and dear brothers and sisters, Om Namo Narayanaya. Dear brothers and sisters, what turbulent times we are going through. First the pandemic, and now the recent looting chaos, over and above the inherent challenges in our lives already. Many of us are experiencing trauma, fear, and sadness. It is more critical than ever to be consciously taking care of our mental health. Mental health is a vast topic, so we only have time to cover a few salient points. Sarada Devi Ashram has chosen a wonderful theme in holistic well-being because although modern science is slowly realizing this, thousands of years ago, our Vedantic rishis discerned that as human beings, we have all these different dimensions to us. These dimensions are, of course, the 5 koshas or sheets, as Sister Niriksha just referred to. All these koshas need to be nurtured and navigated wisely so that the Brahman self at the center, beyond the koshas, can shine revealed. Vedic sciences such as Ayurveda and yoga were created with this holistic intelligence. We will specifically be exploring the Manomaya kosha, or mind sheath. The first key to well-being at any of these levels is awareness. Because logically, how can we take action around our well-being if there is no awareness? That awareness is what we call Sat. It is a non-judgmental awareness. What helps us to create this awareness, this Sat? Meditation. That is why meditation is so fundamentally important, and Mataji will cover more on that. Now, the body, this Annamaya Kosha, is the easiest to be aware of because it is tangible. And we mostly do get taught from school to eat healthily and exercise, even if we don't always listen. The mind is less easy because firstly, it is very subtle. And secondly, as odd as it might be, modern science is only just beginning to realize the importance of mental well-being through mindfulness, etc. So most of us were not taught about the importance of mental well-being. And the problem with that is that we feel ashamed if we experience these mental struggles. We don't know how to deal with it. We try to push it away. So the first thing we need to know is it's okay to not be okay. Mental health is not relegated to those who have psychiatric problems, but actually all of us struggle with this at various points in our lives. And many of us have been through trauma. Removing the stigma is very important, especially for us as spiritual aspirants, because we may feel that being spiritual means that we have to now become like robots. That is not so. Great realized saints like Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, and Jesus were all described as being absolutely natural, so human, so relatable in their vulnerabilities, and we love them for it. Our scriptures tell us that even the most advanced spiritual heroes like Arjuna and Lord Ram experienced mental struggles in times of adversity. Arjuna on the battlefield is a particularly poignant example, grief-stricken, filled with confusion, fear, and despair. So it's okay. In fact, as Swami Yatishwaranandaji wrote, mental struggles are bound to arise the deeper we go into our sadhana, and that it is actually a good sign of the sincerity of our practice. We need to be compassionate with ourselves. This is very important. If we feel ashamed of our mental adversities, it increases the mental health problem. Never give way to guilt and shame. Psychiatrist Dr. David Hawkins showed from his studies that guilt and shame are the two most debilitating emotions that a human being can have. Why? Because it cripples our ability to take action and seek help. It makes us feel so unworthy. He wrote that prolonged cases of these emotions ultimately lead to suicide. What leads to these feelings of unworthiness? Our thoughts. I am not good enough. I should be more successful at my career. I should be a better mother. I am such a bad person for losing my temper. They think I am useless. I should be able to cope with all these pressures. I am not spiritual enough. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. Anyone have that problem? You are not alone. From my coaching work with clients, this is far more prevalent than we might realize. And social media does not help because it fuels comparison, pressure, and resultant unworthiness. So we really need to be fencing our mind in from all sides. As Sri Ramakrishna used to sing, hedge it about with Kali's name to keep your harvest safe. These soul-destroying thoughts are the real enemy. We became aware of the external looters recently, but are we aware of the looters within us, our own Kurava enemy thoughts, looting our peace? Remember, as this picture depicts, that the first thing that Arjuna did at the start of the Gita was that he asked Lord Krishna to position his chariot between the armies so that he could survey the battlefield, to be aware of what he was facing. Awareness. We cannot fight hidden enemies. We need to bring our inner vasanas or mental tendencies into the light of our consciousness. At the start of the Chandi, the demons Madhu and Ketava arose because Lord Vishnu was asleep. This is a message to us. We cannot be unconscious or this inner looting will take over. Next point. Once we have accessed this non-judgmental awareness or Sat, what do? We take action. Swami Sarada Prabhanandaji said once, Never let the enemy set up camp in your mind. In the same way that we fought off the external looters recently, we have to be equally firm with the internal looters of the mind. What is the first action that we take? Exactly what Arjuna did. He turned to God. That is the very first thing we must do. Cry to God and say, look at what my mind is doing, O Lord. Please help me. What should I do? And he will guide you if you listen carefully within. This guidance can take different forms. The important thing is to be still and listen. Seek professional help. There is nothing wrong with this. It can be incredibly helpful to work with a psychologist, psychotherapist, or coach, depending on the nature and severity of the issue. They have the time and expertise to assist at a deep level. If you understand from a spiritual perspective that you are not your mind, it is fine and can actually also be spiritually valuable in fostering self-awareness of vasanas and healing emotional pain. God will guide you to the right person, one who will genuinely care about your well-being and provide a safe space. It is easy to receive support from those around us when there are physical issues. Most people notice the sick, poor, and elderly, but who notices those who are suffering with mental afflictions? Who notices the anguish behind the smiles and cares enough to reach out? Apart from rare saints, not many. Take time out and guard it preciously. Overactivity takes us away from the self. It is okay to say no and set boundaries. We feel very afraid to do this, but I cannot stress how important it is. Yes, it takes courage because we are afraid of being rejected and judged. But those who truly care about you will never respond that way. Just last week, I had a client who had reached a point of mental breakdown due to all the work pressures. Even though he told his boss still kept piling on the work. It reached a point where he started to experience dread, nausea, and mouth ulcers. We caught him being firm with his boss and taking some days off with immediate effect, which he did. If we don't care about our mental health, no one else will. And I encounter these examples regularly. Set your boundaries. If you study the lives of the great saints, you will find that they all had boundaries. Also, limit social media. Be careful how you engage with it. It can be incredibly disturbing to our peace. In the olden days, which was merely a few years ago actually, our communication was either through visiting, receiving physical letters in the post box, or a phone call. Nowadays, one must surely feel sorry for humankind. We are bombarded perpetually throughout the day with emails, WhatsApps, Zoom calls, LinkedIn, Facebook, and so on, in addition to physical interruptions and phone calls. And we wonder why our mental health takes such a beating. It is a constant assault on our nervous systems. Therefore, setting up boundaries is very important and necessary to our mental health, physical health, and our spiritual progress too. Regularly engaging in restorative activities like gardening, yoga, being in nature, and so on can be very beneficial and soothing to the mind. Remembering to leave the phone far away in another room. Don't wait to get to the point of burnout. And most of all, be kind to yourself. Love is the greatest stimulus to our willpower. Advaita Vedanta posits that love for self is the same as love for God and love for others. There is no duality. Never think that it is selfish to take care of your well-being and to love yourself. That is wholly incorrect and untrue, supported by both spiritual and scientific findings. Self-love is not selfish. The fear of being unable to meet the demands and expectations of others creates terrible mental anxiety and fear of judgments, and we also judge ourselves. True love is non-judgmental. It takes courage to look after our well-being, to challenge our fearful and limiting thoughts, to know that we are also children of God and worthy of being loved. Where does courage come from? The etymological root of courage comes from the word heart, comes from love. The only opinion of us that counts is from our beloved God. He alone knows our plight, and his love is unconditional. I have two resources to share with you. The first is this presentation called Decoding the Chandi by a dynamic young Ramakrishna mission monk, Swami Harinamananda, which is about the actual meaning of the Chandi in terms of the psychological battles we face. It is absolutely superb and highly recommended. Secondly, I have started teaching yoga sessions on Zoom for half an hour every second Saturday at 3:30 p.m. for my students and others to help with stress, given the times that we are living in. There is no charge. Those who wish to join may please email me at this address. No calls or WhatsApps, please. So remember, awareness, action, love, and courage. May God keep our minds pure and strong, filled with love and courage as a pure offering to him. Wishing you all a very happy Women's Day. Om Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Thank you.
Om Namo Narayanaya. Thank you so much, Nirisha. That was really beautiful. I have been posed a question on a personal chat, and the question asks, what spiritual practices other than yoga and meditation can you recommend for mental well-being?
Exactly what the Bhagavad Gita recommends. So yoga and meditation are part of the Raja Yoga path, but our Gita actually gives us 4 different paths, all of which helps with mental well-being. And I mean, I think you're all familiar with this as devotees. So there's karma yoga, doing your work as a service, as an offering to God. It also helps a bit to take away the anxiety, the worry, the fear. You feel that you are offering this to God, that it's God within you that's helping you with whatever work or task you have to do. And there's Jnana Yoga, which is very powerful. So when the mind starts to worry and to stress or to get frustrated, is to go into that Vichara Atman. Who am I? Who is it that's getting anxious? Who is it that's getting stressed? And that sparks a remembrance. It is the small self. It's the mind. Am I my mind? Who is the mind? And then we remember, I'm the Atman. The Atman, it's the mind that's getting stressed. Okay, and you be compassionate with the mind. Okay, I see the stress. Don't push it down or judge it or, get angry with yourself for feeling this way. Acknowledge it. Okay, I see the fear. And whatever you then need to do. And who's the you that's now comforting this mind? It's the Atman within you. It's the Krishna comforting the Arjuna. Okay, what do I need to do? What is going to help with this situation? And the guidance will come, whether you guide it to a book or a person or to sit quietly. And then, of course, there is the Bhakti Yoga. So love, it's said in life, there are 2 things that are actually at the root of what we do or we don't do in life. And that is fear and love. So if you feel fearful about something, to try and think, what would it be like if I approach this from an angle of love and you move it into bhakti? If I do this as love for God. And then, of course, there is yoga and meditation. Ultimately, what I have found is that you work with all these practices in harmony, but meditation is it's really important. So it's in addition to, rather than, I would say, replacing meditation. So I hope that helps. It's a big question.
Yes, and you've answered it very adequately. The second question that I have is that, women are primarily multitaskers and they lead very complex lives, juggling many things. How do we cultivate mindfulness in this time?
So I think that is just so true, and I think more than probably at any time in history, we just seem to be doing more and more juggling, and digitalization, which was meant to make our lives a little easier, actually hasn't. So you have to be intentional about the way in which you use, I think particularly technology. And like I mentioned, being really intentional about not overexposing oneself to this constant barrage of WhatsApps and LinkedIn and emails and Facebook. And there are ways to actually set your boundaries and channel your communications to one space. I mean, I know with my clients, as much as possible, as people have different preferences. For me, it's email. It gives me the space. It's coming through my phone, so I catch it quickly. But it just limits, it streamlines. Otherwise, you're trying to field all of these different things. And it's very difficult to have that, a part of your consciousness, say our great saints, like Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Ramana Maharshi, part of our consciousness needs to be on this inner self. I think it was Sri Ramakrishna who said, hold on to God with one hand and the other hand do your duties. Or it was Holy Mother, I can't remember which. It's difficult to keep a part of your consciousness on this Atman self when the nervous system is being bombarded by all this different technology. So I would say set your boundaries and, try to keep a part of your consciousness within. Even every 10 minutes, if you can take a remembrance to chant your Ishta Devata's name. I think mindfulness from a Vedantic point of view almost seems to be a misnomer, because the point is we don't want to fool our mind. It's mind stillness is what I like to call it. How do we still the mind?
Thank you so much. Narisha, I have had a request for your email address again, and we will pop it into the box. So okay, if you can, whilst we continue with our program, if you could pop your email address into the box, that would be really lovely. Thank you, dear attendees, for all the questions, and thank you, Narisha, for answering them so beautifully. We will now proceed to conclude this morning's function, and Revered Mataji will lead us into a guided meditation and offer the concluding prayers.
Om Aim Sarvadeva Devi Swarupaya Shri Ramakrishnaya Namaha. Om Namo Narayanaya, dear sisters and brothers. We're so happy to have all of you join us on today's program. And we have been really inspired and encouraged to keep well mentally and physically. All the talks and presentations were really excellent and very practical and applicable for now. So now we come to also another, as Narisha has mentioned, a very important aspect of our life, and that is meditation. We must realize that today, many Western countries are teaching meditation at school, and it has become part of the curriculum because they have realized the amazing results they get from the children and, I suppose, the teachers as well. So meditation is definitely not a punishment. It is such a joy. It is absolutely amazing when we really meditate, when we try, not that we are not experts at meditation. We're not like Swami Vivekananda and Sri Ramakrishna or even Mother Sarada, but we have to make a start. You will be amazed to know what joy you will get to see how your mind works, to see what you are thinking. So it is important. We must make a start even for few moments every day, 2 to 3 minutes in the morning, 2 to 3 minutes in the evening. And as your joy and experience, you feel the peace within your heart, you can increase it from 2 to 4 minutes or 5 minutes. And even after 6 months, you will find that now you want to make it 10 minutes. So please do not feel that there's something wrong with meditation. It is very, very beneficial to learn the art of meditation, because meditation doesn't mean, remember our big Swamiji used to say, it's not that you have to deaden the mind, because if somebody gives you one knock on your head, that is easy to deaden the mind. It's not that. We have to know our real nature. So meditation helps us to appreciate so many things in life. It helps us to focus. It helps us to appreciate other people, and we learn to feel the presence of the divine within. So that's the main reason we have to meditate, because there is a divine being within us which we have been ignoring. So it helps us to improve in our holistic life as well. And that's the main reason, again, that we meditate, because we are so used to admiring the outside world. The senses only want to go outside, listen to everything good, see everything beautiful, but we forget that the most precious and beautiful thing is inside our own hearts. So our scriptures and saints advise us that when we direct our mind and senses within, we can actually see God, because they saw God. It's not just theory, but many of them experienced the presence of God. We must also remember that we are not just the body-mind complex. There is the Atman inside, and it's not that we cannot know the Atman. So this power of God, the Atman, is the same as the Paramatman. Like the ocean, you see the waves have the same composition as the ocean itself. So it is through meditation, through prayer, through leading a moral and ethical life, being truthful, loving people, being forgiving. Even if we practice those qualities, you will find that it is so easy, well, not so easy, but it is enjoyable to meditate. And Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, there is no wisdom in the fickle-minded. There is no peace for those who do not meditate. And how can such a person be happy? So we see always, even in Sri Ramakrishna, what a joy in his face, smiling all the time, because he derives this joy from God within, not from anything external. Everything outside is very impermanent. It is here today, gone tomorrow. Then where will our joy come from? So we have to experience that ananda, that bliss within us first. And Sri Ramakrishna says, just as we practice much in order to sing, dance, or play on any musical instruments, we must practice the art of fixing the mind on God. The stressful lives that people lead today cause them to be frustrated and angry. Meditation is the best method to cope with many of life's challenges, because during meditation, we tap the source of all strength, love, and bliss, that is God. Now, the prerequisites to start meditation is to lead a moral life, an ethical life. And as I said, we have to be truthful and be compassionate, just as we choose the things in our home to make the home look beautiful. We must choose the things that we want within us, from our mind and senses, what we take in. We have to choose so that the mind is not cluttered with unnecessary thoughts. Also, as the Bhagavad Gita says, eating, sleeping, and recreation must be done moderately so that the body is comfortable. When we try to practice meditation every day, whether we like it or not, as Mother Sarada says, soon this will give us that habit where we will enjoy meditation because we are relaxed in ourselves. So don't think that when all my work is complete, then I will sit to meditate. That doesn't happen. So try and have a fixed time, whether it is whatever time is suitable to you. As I said, for those who do not meditate, just 2 or 3 minutes of the day. Try it even for 3 to 6 months, and you will see gradually how you enjoy that, and you will be able to increase the time. Because sometimes the mind is very, very energetic, like a child. It just cannot sit still. And even Arjuna, when Shri Krishna said to Arjuna, you must meditate. And what did Arjuna say? Oh Krishna, the mind is restless, turbulent, strong, and obstinate. It is as hard to control as the wind. And the Lord, who is a perfect teacher, agrees with Arjuna. He doesn't say, oh no, Arjuna, that is wrong. He says, yes, oh Arjuna, the mind is restless. but by practice and non-attachment, it can be controlled. Yoga is difficult for those who cannot control themselves, but it is easy for those who strive by the correct means. And Sri Krishna then explains how one can gradually draw the mind away from the senses and fix it on God within. Supreme bliss verily comes to that yogi whose mind is perfectly calm and whose passions are quieted, says the Lord. Just as a lamp in a windless place does not flicker, the disciplined mind of a yogi, firm in the thought of God, does not waver. So we must make a habit of watching our mind. As I said, sit calmly and feel relaxed. Let's try that now. Everyone sit calmly and feel relaxed. Let the head, neck, and spine be in a straight line and become a witness to your thoughts. Watch each thought as it passes your mind and think, I am not those fleeting thoughts. These thoughts change, my mind changes. It is separate from God. It is separate from my actual reality, from the fact of who I really am. So we can also recall inspiring incidents from our scriptures. For example, we can try to think of Hanumanji, how he lived only for Sri Ram, and he couldn't rest until he had accomplished the Lord's work. So when we fill our mind with positive thoughts, divine thoughts, then as Sri Ramakrishna says, you go on pouring clean water into a jar of dirty water. Soon the dirty water overflows and you have only clean water. So we can think of Mirabai and Radharani, who couldn't live without their beloved Lord Krishna. We can also pray, O Lord, make my mind pure like their mind. Recounting these divine glories is like cleaning and shining the mirror of our mind. So God's power reflects, a pure mind reflects the light of God. Many of us think that we rest by doing nothing, but the mind is not resting. The mind is thinking of all sorts of unnecessary things, keeping us tired again. Meditation is the natural way of resting the mind and filling it with new freshness, with a fresh vibration, because God is the source of all energy. Our minds become filled with vitality by thinking of God. So, as we sit in a comfortable posture and let the mind be totally relaxed, make sure that you are not holding your fist tight, you are not holding your neck tight or your feet. Everything must be relaxed from the top, from the head, the neck, the spine. Your shoulders must not be tense. Let your shoulders be hanging down in a relaxed manner, not tensed up. Your hands must be relaxed either on your lap or in whichever way you are relaxed. Then feel happy and cheerful. Try to breathe rhythmically. Slow, gentle, deep breathing helps to make the mind one-pointed and relaxed. As we breathe in, feel that you are breathing in strength and love. Breathe out weakness and hatred. Breathe in patience and understanding. Breathe out anger and jealousy. Breathe in divine positive qualities, everything that you love, that you see in other people, and you wish you were also patient. So breathe in that patience. Breathe in the calmness. Breathe in love and peace. Feel that you are full of love and peace. There is no place in my heart and in my mind for anything other than peace, joy, strength, comfort, love, accommodation, and understanding. The world outside does not exist anymore. It is only God and I, only that supreme reality and I. Try to concentrate. If it is difficult to sit relaxed, then choose any aspect of God you like. We have infinite names and forms of God because God is infinite and cannot be limited to one form or one name. Some people also like to think about natural, beautiful scenes like colorful flowers, beautiful waterfalls from the mountains, the clear, infinite blue sky with the golden rays of the sun shining brightly and beautifully. The beauty of nature reminds us of God's glory and beauty. Krishna says, among the luminous beings, I am the sun. Among the ocean, among the bodies of water, I am the ocean. Among the mountains, I am the Himalayas. So it is God's power that permeates the entire world. We can choose that which pleases our hearts. We can also meditate on qualities of God like love, peace, strength, compassion, forgiveness, and joy or bliss. The ancient and very effective method is to concentrate on any form of God that we love best. Sri Ramakrishna and others worshipped God through images and became one with God. Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, whatever form any devotee wishes to worship with faith, I make that faith of his unwavering. O Arjuna, greater is their difficulty whose minds are set on the unmanifest. For the goal of the unmanifest is very hard for the embodied to reach. Since we have a body and mind, we like to concentrate on that which is similar to us. Some people who love their parents or love their children, Sri Ramakrishna used to say, think that your child is baby Gopala. And if you are happy to meditate, there's nothing wrong. If you're happy to meditate on your own parents, think that the power that they have, the love that they are giving you is the love of God. So you can think about them in the highest manner possible. Although we may revere all the forms of God that we know, but yet we must concentrate on our chosen ideal. Choose one aspect because this helps us to deepen our meditation and increase our love for God. Have firm faith that your chosen ideal is the best for you. God answers our prayers through that very form, for He alone is being worshipped through all the forms. In the early stages of meditation, it is helpful to look lovingly at the beautiful picture of any Ishta Devata, Sri Ram, Sri Krishna, Lord Shiva, Mother Saraswati, whichever deity you choose, whichever one you love the best and can relate to, that is the best for us, for you. Observe the picture carefully. Then try to close your eyes and visualize this form within your heart. In the heart area, or in the forehead, in between the eyebrows, or on the top of the head, wherever you are comfortable. Try to feel that divine presence within. Let no other thought disturb your mind. Fix your whole attention on God and God alone. Think that only you and God exist. Feel calm and happy in the divine presence of the Lord, who is self-effulgent, brilliant, and glorious. It is also good to chant a mantra of that aspect of God that you worship. So, if I am thinking of Lord Shiva, I can chant Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. And at the back of my mind, to prevent my mind from wandering about, let me think of the meaning of the mantra. Om is the sound symbol of God. It is the first sound that emanated from God and is identical to God. It indicates knowledge, light, and love. Om has infinite meanings. Whatever I like to feel that Om represents, that is correct for me. Namaha means I prostrate to. This suggests reverence, humility, wanting to learn, and as I bow down to God, I can pray, "O Lord, I have taken refuge in you. Please protect me. Please bless me. Give me knowledge and wisdom. In my ignorance, I may leave you, O my Lord, but please do not leave me. Always hold my hand and guide me forward. Save me from error, O Lord, save me." Shivaya indicates auspiciousness, peace, and blessedness. There are infinite meanings to this mantra, but for a simple way, we can think Om is the sound symbol of God, Namaha is I take refuge in God, and Shivaya is auspiciousness. I must feel that God is my father, God is my mother, God is my only true friend. He is eternal, constant, and the ultimate resting place of this whole universe. God permeates my entire being. He or she or it, because we do not know. God is he, God is she, God is just a divine power, an infinite power. So he, she, or it is inside me and outside me. There is no way that God is not. The Atman in me is the same as the Paramatman, the supreme reality. My real nature is Sat-Chit Ananda, existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute, not relative, not only for today, but absolute. There was never a time when I did not exist, nor will there be a time when the Atman or Paramatman will cease to exist. God knows everything. There's nothing that God does not know. All of us want to be happy because that is our real nature. My real nature is to be Ananda, to be in bliss. Therefore, whatever I do because I want to be happy. I am full of love and peace. Let us remain silent for a few seconds and feel this joy and peace within us. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Anybody has any question, please ask.
Mataji, I'm monitoring the chat box. There hasn't been any questions in, but we'll give the delegates a few minutes to pose any questions if they may have.
Everybody is peaceful, quiet, and happy. We can say the Shanti part. Sarvesham swarirabhavatu, Sarvesham shantirabhavatu, Sarvesham purnam bhavatu, Sarvesham mangalam bhavatu, Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, Sarve santu niramayaha, Sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukha bhag bhavet. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ki Jai, Mahamai Ki Jai, Swami Ji Maharaj Ki Jai, Shri Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, Mahasaraswati, Shri Durga Mata Ki Jai. Om Namo Narayana.
Om Namo Narayana. We thank revered Mataji for her concluding remarks and the guided meditation, and our speakers for their most thought-provoking addresses. We have come to the end of a most spiritually elevating morning. We offer our heartfelt gratitude to our Master Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Sarada Devi, and Swami Vivekananda. Through their benevolence, we have been able to commemorate today's special Women's Day program on the various online platforms. We offer our gratitude to revered Pravrajika Ishtaprana Mataji for Mataji's continuous guidance and inspiration. Thank you, Mataji. To all of our speakers, once again, thank you for your interesting and practical discourses. We also like to take this opportunity to thank each of you for joining us in today's program. It is encouraging to see your eager participation, especially through the relevant questions that were asked. We thank our youth, Akir Narsingh, Mihir Haribai, Avan Kublal, and Dia Harikishun for the impeccable coordination and support of today's online program. Please take note of the following important announcements. The Sri Sarada Devi Ashram has new prayer books available at only 35 Rand each. Please contact the ashram for your copy, which contains new songs, hymns, etc. with English meanings. Youth and children that wish to empower themselves further are encouraged to attend the Hinduism for Children's classes that are being conducted online for the safety and convenience of our children. Please contact the ashram for further details. The Sri Sarada Devi Ashram has online satsangs each Sunday morning from 9 to 10 a.m., as well as during important festivals like Krishna Ashtami, which is coming up. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel to join our regular online satsangs and our Facebook page for important updates and notices of the ashram's activities. Please search for Sri Sarada Devi Ashram on both platforms. For your convenience, the ashram's contact details will be available on the YouTube link after today's program. We thank you once again for joining us today, and may the Holy Trio bless us all with love and devotion. Om Namo Narayanaya.